Not like indigestion, the desire for earmarks keeps coming back up. Now, tomorrow afternoon, our colleagues in the House will vote on a provision to overturn the congressional ban on earmarking. As someone who helped put that ban in place, I believe it's important to explain why it is very much still a necessity. Now, consider the following: the Teapot Museum in North Carolina, an indoor rainforest in Iowa, Bridges to Nowhere in Alaska, a Sheep Institute in Montana, a Woodstock Museum to commemorate the 1969 concert in New York, a $350 million rocket launch site in Mississippi that was mothballed upon completion that has been derided as the Tower to Nowhere, the Weather Museum in Punxsutawney, Pennsylvania. These are just some of the more infamous pork projects that were tucked into bills in Congress here during the bygone earmark era. I believe during the heyday of earmarking in 2006, there were some 16,000 earmarks spread around among the appropriation bills at that time. Now, members of Congress gleefully touted the outrageous manner in which billions of dollars were being misspent on obscure parochial projects. Earmarks were the currency of what was dubbed the favor factory by a super lobbyist who would eventually go to jail for corruption. Earmarks were used to reward campaign donors and political supporters and to buy and sell the votes of politicians. The deciding vote that was necessary to pass Obamacare, for example, was secured with an earmark for Nebraska, derided as the Cornhusker kickback. Now, Republicans lost control of Congress in 2006 in part as a result of the public disgust for the corruption within the favor factory. When Republicans retook the House of Representatives in 2010, a moratorium was put on congressional earmarking, which the Senate also adopted, and that remains in place to this day. But now some Republicans in the House are pushing to reopen the favor factory by lifting the moratorium, promising this time it'll be different. Now, taxpayers ought to know that these promises are simply hogwash. Having spent years fighting against earmarks, I am disappointed that one of the very first votes after this election will be on a Republican-led proposal to bring back earmarks. Congress should instead immediately pass legislation to make the ban on earmarks a permanent statutory prohibition. After all, you can't drain the swamps by feeding the alligators pork. With our national debt approaching $20 trillion, taxpayers expect Congress to focus on cutting wasteful spending and unnecessary spending instead of pigging out of the trough. And one of the worst parts of earmarks are that we spend our time here when we're earmarking, not providing oversight for the massive appropriation bills that get passed here. That's the worst part of it, is that we spend time doling out this, what amounts to a small portion of the federal budget, but that takes so much time and effort from members and their staff to just secure that small bit of money that we aren't spending the time that we should providing oversight on the rest of the budget. That's the biggest crime of earmarks. So I hope that we will, instead of bringing them back, actually pass a statutory prohibition that will remain. With that, Mr. President, I yield back.